West Hill United is a progressive spiritual community where how you live is more important than what you believe. West Hill United is a people, a place, an idea. We are a community living out of a progressive faith, striving to make a positive difference in our own lives, the lives of others, and the world. Join us Sundays at 10:30 a.m. or connect with us at any time.
So hello, everybody. It's so good to be here in person with you this morning. Here at West Hill, we always begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is in the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and was previously occupied by the Huron-Wendat and Seneca First Nations. This land is covered by Treaty 20 and the Williams Treaties of 1923 and lies within the lands of the protected dish with one spoon, wampum. The Agreement of 1701, an indigenous citizenship law made between the Haudenosaunee, probably didn't say that right, and Anishinaabe nations in 1701 that extends from Montreal to Fort Erie. One of the core values within the idea of a dish with one spoon is that those who use the land should not abuse the land. Individuals and groups should only take what they need from the land so that there will be a healthy, long-term, sustainable environment. All participants in the agreement or treaty had the responsibility to ensure that the dish would never be empty by taking care of the land and all of the living beings on it. We invite you to visit a First Nation, to attend the powwow, and to stay for the great feast, wherein everyone is welcome and expected to partake of the food that is generously offered to visitors, all in good fellowship. So this morning, as we've said, we're going to talk about books and stories that have moved us. And to start us out, I'm going to test our knowledge on books. Is that okay? All right. So we're going to have a game that comes up here on the screen. I just want to be clear. I did not name this game. I found it online, so if anybody's really good at it, I'm not calling you a nerd. The creator of the game is. So this is called Book Nerd, and it's how well do you know the classics? Here's the instructions for the game. They gave me a clicker, and there we go. All right. So the instructions say to guess the classic book from some clues or synopsis of the story. So on the screen, there will be a couple clues given, and you have to see if you can guess the book. There might be some clues below if you're looking there. That's all right. Now, you get a point if you can guess the book. But you also get a point if you can guess the author, and then a really difficult one if you can somehow guess the year. I think we might just take best guesses for the year, the time frame. So we'll start out with this one here. So here's the clue. Let's see if you can guess the book and keep your own score. Scrooge, Bah Humbug, and Ghosts of Christmas, still everywhere each December. Think about it for a second. All righty, Christmas Carol, yes. And so, does anybody know the author? That's right. All right, now the hard question. Does anybody have any idea what year? 18-something. I thought it was 2024. No? All right. 1850. Anybody? Is everybody good with that, or anybody want to guess a little bit closer? Earlier? 18. Okay, here's the answer. You're right, Christmas Carol, Charles Dickens, 1843. The next one, fence painting, Mississippi River, and Childhood Rebellion. Yep, Tom Sawyer, and who's the author of that? All right, can anybody take a guess of the year? Whew.
Online,
that's fair.
Also able to guess.
The year is 1876, so 150 years ago. All right, I think this next one might be a little bit harder. Ahoy, matey, pirates, maps, and Long John Silver. Yep. What about the author? Anybody have a guess there? And the year? Oh, this is the tough one. Y'all didn't, I just said y'all. Oh, yeah. Scott pointed out this morning, and then I said, all y'all, so y'all can just be like one or two people, but all y'all is even more people, so. All right, so here we go. Treasure Island, Robert Louis Stevenson, 1883. Our next one, often misunderstood, but most people will recognize Victor's Monster instantly. Yep, and who's the author of that? Yep, and this year question, whoo, any guesses for this one? What's that? Would you say she was? When she, really? I didn't, wow. I was barely passing like intro to literature at that age, so. All right, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley in 1818. We'll do a couple more here. I have a question. Is anybody here honor system who's gotten mostly all of them correct except for the year so far? Because the year's gotten harder. Nice. All right, Green Light, Roaring Twenties, the 1920s, and on every high school reading list. Yep, and who is the author of that? Yep, and anybody have a guess of the year? There's a clue in there. 1920-something, and yes, 1925. All right, why don't we do one more here? I'm gonna go to the last one here. Is this, here's the last one. Yep, and who's the author of Pride and Prejudice? Any guess on the year? 1700s? Is that? Okay. Yep, born, not sure when, but you said 1770, somewhere around there, and then wrote this in 1813. These are some great stories. And there's probably a reason why we are still talking about them today. Now, there's some reasons why stories can move us. Books and stories, and it can be all different forms. You know, we have modern day movies, and even as we're going to talk about later in the series, music. Stories can move us. Some of the reasons why that is, they can help us learn and remember. Sorry, the font's kind of smaller there, but stories add emotion and context. They help our brains retain and understand ideas better than isolated facts. One of the things that I do is I do career coaching with people making difficult career changes. And I will tell people when I work with them in interviewing skills, I'll say, it's good to tell some facts, to have some numbers of different things. Facts can tell, numbers can tell, but stories sell. What's your story? What's the organization's story? And maybe how can they meet up? How do the stories go together? If you can communicate that, you've really done something. They help our brains learn and remember. I'll say one other thing with this before we go to the next point. There's a stat that says that we are 22 times more likely to remember something from a story than we are just an isolated fact. That's why, these books have stood the test of time. If some people just gave some random statistics, they might be known for a time, but it's the stories. I mean, think about all of the world's major stories, the major traditions and religions that have been passed down by culture for thousands, if not more, years. It's a story. People want to get lost in a story and find their story within something. Helps us learn and remember. Another part is it helps us feel and to be connected. Brain studies show listener brains can sync with storytellers. And powerful stories can release oxytocin, linked to trust and empathy. Oxytocin is known as the bonding hormone. How many of you have ever heard someone tell a story and you thought, yeah, I can relate to that. I can find my story within that story. I can connect with that. Or maybe you've come across somebody and you didn't really know them that well, and then they shared their story. And you gained a greater respect for them. Or maybe even just a better understanding. Maybe even perhaps they had done some actions that you didn't agree with. But when you saw some of the context, you had a little bit more sympathy and empathy. You connected with them, not just about what they had done, but about their story of being a human. Other ways that stories can move us, they can help us make sense of things. Narrative identity research, it suggests that we organize experiences into stories to understand our lives. It's the same thing that I've already said. These long-standing stories that people have had throughout humanity, it helps people make sense of the world. Sometimes whether it's right or wrong of a story. Maybe perhaps that's not always the point. Maybe it's a way for us to understand some bigger, more abstract, existential questions. That's what story can do. One more thing. Story. It can help us imagine and then act. Narrative transportation research shows absorbed stories that we take in, can influence what we believe and then what we do. How many of you have ever heard a story before? It's made you think of a different world. Imagine a different world that maybe you hadn't thought before. There's been somebody who stood out for something that they did when they overcame adversity, and you said, maybe I could overcome the adversity that I'm having. There's a psychologist that I've listened to throughout the years. In some of the teachings I've heard from him, sometimes he'll say, imagine somebody going through what you've gone through. Somebody somewhere in the world, something similar. And if it's possible for them to overcome this difficult situation. Now I get there's some things that we can't control, but the things that we can. And basically what the psychologist is doing is saying, imagine a new world, imagine a different story, imagine the story that you are telling yourself. Maybe, perhaps, it's not the full story. Maybe there's more. I'll just say on a personal note, this week as I've looked more into stories, I've known the power of story. But as I've looked into it further this week, it's challenged me. What story do I want to tell myself? Of course, as accurate of a story that I can, but then what story do I want to work on writing? These stories that we started out with, they're powerful stories. They teach us something. They help us learn. They help us connect. They help us imagine new worlds. I've heard the phrase before, words create worlds. Words can create something new, something for us to gather hope around and imagine good that can come.
Become a sustaining champion of West Hill United's work by committing to an automatic monthly donation. Learn more or donate now through Canada Helps.